Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hart for those of you that are new, and today I'll be breaking down this week 6 slate on DraftKings, the Sunday main slate. Going to be doing an early look breakdown, kind of talking through some favorite plays, some core plays, some value plays. Obviously, it's very early in the week, so this is all going to change by Friday or Saturday, so make sure to stay tuned for my final core play look video on Saturday that should be out. But yeah, I'll be talking through all of that, kind of helping you guys start off your processes here in terms of building for this week, as well as doing a recap of my week 5 lineup. So make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and let's get right into this breakdown. So here's my lineup. As I told you guys in kind of my final core play look video on Saturday, that I was going with the chalky build and looking to get different just with a few of those wide receivers. I got a little bit too different. We can also go over the lineup that won the $1 million at first, but in terms of my lineup, went chalky with Justin Fields. Wasn't looking great, but he turned it on in the fourth quarter there. He was the highest scoring player in terms of quarterbacks in the winning lineup. Devon Achane was really just kind of brutal. 10 attempts for 16 yards. He did get that touchdown, which really saved his day. Otherwise, he just wasn't the best there against Carolina, which was pretty frustrating. Breece Hall there. He was really solid. Jamar Chase, once again, was not looking great. He really turned it on there in the second half to really help me easily cash. Jameson Williams was just brutal. As I said, I was going to get different, go with the chalk kind of quarterback and running backs and get different with the wide receivers. As you can see, 9% Jamar Chase, 10% Jameson Williams. Unfortunately, Jameson Williams just did nothing there. That was kind of annoying. Nico Collins, 21% owned. That was also super frustrating. They put up like 40 on the Ravens, and he was like the worst receiver on the team. I think Hutchinson had 2 touchdowns. Noel had a touchdown. Pretty much everyone scored. Nico Collins, they just didn't need to utilize him, which kind of sucked. Jake Ferguson, obviously chalk. He did great. Rico Dotto, obviously amazing game there. And then I did originally have the Saints defense. And then I had the Texans, and then at the last second, I was like, I have like $700 left over. I'm going to pay up for the Giants, going against Spencer Rattler. And obviously didn't work out, but still, I was able to cash, able to win $10 on top of it. So I'll take that as a win. In terms of the Millie Maker lineup, as you can see, it was Justin Fields, Jonathan Taylor, Breece Hall, JSN, Ibuka, Waddle, Ferguson, Dottle, and the Saints. So as you guys can see, it's kind of been a trend so far, the past couple of weeks in terms of the winning lineups taking down $1 million at first. When people, I see people in the comments or on Twitter that's like, don't chase the chalk, or like it's too chalky, especially with like core play videos. If I put up like 4 to 5, core plays and they're all chalk, people are like, oh, that's too chalky. It's not going to work. Where, as you can see, 31% owned. Justin Fields was the highest owned quarterback. He was in the winning lineup. Jonathan Taylor, one of the highest owned running backs in the winning lineup. Same thing with Breece Hall. Same thing with JSN. Same thing with Ferguson. Same thing with Dottle. Same thing with the Saints defense. Like, as I said, like I was trying to get different with like 2, maybe 3 wide receivers. All this guy did was get different with 2 wide receivers, Ibuka and Waddle there, and it really paid off. And he took down $1 million to first place, 246 fantasy points. So as I said, guys, like you can play the chalk, and all you really need to do is just to get different with 1 or 2 pieces. And if it works out and the chalk hits, you're going to have a really good game and a really good day, and might be a millionaire like this guy. So yeah, that's kind of the recap there. Let me know if you guys like the recaps. I'll continue doing them for the rest of the season here. But in terms of quarterback plays, let's start off here with Lamar Jackson. He is questionable. I don't think he'll play, right now based on the spread. I think it's like 7.5, favorite to the Rams. It doesn't seem or look like Lamar will be good to go. So either we're going to get Cooper Rush, or they did say, I think, Snoop Huntley, I believe it is like the third string there, that they said he might be in play. So I don't think it does much. Maybe he could be a dart throw guy if you're playing 150 lineups, but for me, this slate overall, when you kind of look at the pricing across the board of quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, it doesn't feel, at least of right now, obviously it's very early in the week, but it doesn't feel like one of those slates where it's like you automatically have those go-to plays because of injuries. You're going to lock them in and just try to get different with like 2 or 3 plays. Like right now, the pricing's kind of tight. Obviously, that will change throughout the week, but there's not really a ton of like, oh, we just lock and load this guy. Obviously, Puka is one of them, but in terms of like running backs, they're kind of priced right now. Same thing with wide receivers. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what news comes out during the middle of the week that kind of helps us, find out what chalk we should be chasing and what chalk we shouldn't. But In terms of quarterbacks, obviously Baker going against San Fran. I don't love that matchup. San Fran's kind of getting in a roll there, but obviously it's Baker. He's been fine. Dak Prescott in a good matchup here against Carolina. He's been playing at MVP level. I don't mind going back to him there at 6,500. Price really hasn't moved too much. Stafford against Baltimore. Baltimore, the worst defense in the league right now. A little bit worse than the Giants. At 6,400, he looks solid. I just worry about the fact that, as we can see from the first 3 weeks, like Stafford's one of those guys, like he could go out there, throw 2 touchdowns, like 250 yards, and only get you less than 20 fantasy points. Like obviously you compare him with Puka, you compare him with Devontae Adams, even kind of slightly Kyren Williams, even though I think the last game was an outlier game for him receiving wise, but still, I just kind of worry about the upside for Stafford, especially in a game that's 7.5 point spread. Baltimore looks horrendous. Like I feel safer going with, playing either Devontae Adams and Kyren or Puka and Kyren just without Stafford. Just not stacking them with Stafford, just going those two separately and using a different quarterback. I think that's the route I'd rather go than playing Stafford with him as of right now. Justin Herbert here, as I mentioned in the last week's video, I'm kind of skeptical of that offensive line. Like as we saw in that game there against the Commanders, like the offensive line was pretty bad. He was scrambling a ton, had his most yards in terms of rushing there, 60. I think it's gonna be like that for the next few weeks until they get Joel Alt back or Mekhi Beckham. But yeah, their offensive line is pretty brutal. I kind of worry about the upside there, throwing deep balls in the passing game. I think it's going to be more so short game, especially with the loss of Marion Hampton as well, right? Like they're down a lot of people on the offensive line. They're down their dynamic rookie running back. I love the price. I love the matchup. It's just one of those things. Like I kind of worry about the offensive line if he'll be able to have the passing ceiling that you need. But still, I think he's still a really solid bet. Jordan Love gets a fantastic matchup here against Cincinnati. Once again, the only worry is, will this game blow out? And it's one of those things like, who are you going to pair him with? Like, I think the most logical would be Tucker Kraft. I don't mind going skinny, Jordan Love, Tucker Kraft, maybe even throwing in Josh Jacobs there just because of the matchup and the potential blowout risk there. But still, I think he looks like one of the best quarterback plays. Brock Purdy is questionable. We'll see if he's back. If not, it's going to be Mac Jones, which is fine there going against Tampa Bay. Don't mind it. Moving on down a little bit more, I do like Drake May here against New Orleans. As you can see, Drake May's been pretty solid last game. Lost on a few touchdowns there just because of Ramondre Stevenson ran them in. But still, he's a guy who can go for 20+ easily. And Stephon Diggs is looking pretty solid the past 2 weeks. Moving on down a little bit more, I do have an interest in Kyler Murray if he's good to go there against Indiana. Some cheaper quarterbacks I will mention. I do like Tua a little bit there against the Chargers just because you can pair him with Waddle, you can pair him with Devon Achane, and you can pair him with Darren Waller, who's been looking pretty solid there. His snaps have been going up. That's really it. I will mention Geno Smith. He's been brutal, absolutely horrific. But, I mean, going against Tennessee, one of those teams you like to target, as we can see, he's a quarterback that can go for 20+. It's been brutal, though. I just wanted to call that out. And that's really it. So, right now, favorite quarterback for me is probably going to be, I think right now for this early look, it's going to be probably Jordan Love. Moving on to the running backs here. As I mentioned with the running backs, they're all kind of priced about right. So Jonathan Taylor at the top, 8,500. He looks really solid once again, even though his price is getting up there. Same thing with CMC. Like, you're going to get the production from those two. I kind of worry about the production in the price tag for Devon Achane there. In a great matchup against Carolina, he was pretty brutal. Now, obviously, you're not going to have a good game every single week in good matchups, but still, if there's one player to be kind of suspect about in the top, let's say 4 running backs between Jacobs, Achane, McCaffrey, and Taylor, I think it's going to be Achane. Josh Jacobs, as I mentioned, gets a fantastic matchup here against the Cincinnati Bengals. You just hope that game stays close, but he should be able to have a pretty solid game there. Bucky Irving is questionable. I'd assume he's going to be out once again with those injuries. You get Gentry in a fantastic matchup here against the Tennessee Titans. As you can see, his workload's really skyrocketed the past 3 weeks. He went from 17 touches in week 3 to what he had 23 in week 4, that massive blowout game against the Bears, which we were on. And then he had 21 there last week against Indiana. So I think he should be in line for at least 18+ touches. Once again, in that matchup against Tennessee, he looks really solid. But I think right now, for me, the two best plays I really like are going to be Javonte Williams here at 6,400 against Carolina and Kyrie Williams at 6,300 against Baltimore, especially if you're not going to be playing Stafford. You could easily get to Kyrie Williams here. Just a fantastic matchup here. Obviously, that last game, 10 targets, was an outlier game for him. He should only see a couple, 2 to 4, but it's just the rushing upside. He's still seen a ton of attempts. Blake Corum had a fumble, and they pretty much benched him the rest of the game there. So really, really like the matchups for both of them. I think they're priced about right, and I think they have really, really solid upside. The only knock I would give to Javonte is he's gotten a touchdown in almost every single game, besides obviously that Week 3 game, but still, it's just he's an absolute workhorse. He's been really, really good, and the offense is really, really clicking right now. I don't mind riding the hot streak with him there. Moving on down a little bit more, Rashad White, I think he's priced about right. Like, obviously touchdowns are a thing, but if you didn't get 2 touchdowns there, kind of some freebies, like he would have had a kind of a bad game there for being super chalky. So that's kind of more of a stay and kind of wait for me. I really like Quinshon Judkins. Not the best matchup here going against Pittsburgh defense. Obviously, the Browns are not the best, but I do think Dylan Gabriel is a slight upgrade to Joe Flacco. Nothing too crazy there, but as you can see, even in games that they've been down a ton, they're still giving Quinshon Judkins a ton of work, as you can see from his workload. From a guy who did not practice or play during the kind of the preseason there, didn't have any training camp, and he's pretty much getting 20-plus touches the past 3 weeks. Like, he looks really, really solid, even in a tough matchup there at 5,900. Moving on down a little bit more, I think we got to mention Rico Dowdle. Was great for us last week, obviously super chalky. You can't expect 200-plus yards again, but still, going against a really, really poor Dallas defense, a revenge game narrative for him if you guys are into that. Once again, if Chuba is out, Rico Dowdle looks like a really, really strong and solid play. If Chuba's back, I think you could fade both of them. It just really depends on that news there. Moving on down a little bit more here. Once again, I'll mention Tony Pollard. I just think his upside is slightly capped. Like, it was nice to see him get a touchdown, as I mentioned. Like, he could still have a solid game there at his price tag. It's just, can Tennessee get into the red zone enough for him to be able to get those touchdowns and have solid games? Right now, it doesn't look that way, but still, I'll keep mentioning him just because he's getting the bulk of those carries, kind of the workhorse there for that backfield, and he's cheaply priced. So I always keep mentioning him until he has that blowout game. Moving on down a little bit more, Michael Carter was the clear running back one there for the Cardinals. DeMarcado obviously had that horrific fumble there on that massive run right before he crossed the goal line. So I think we can safely say Michael Carter is going to firmly carry that running back one role, and he had 5 targets, which is nice to see. He had 18 attempts, like 5,300 for that, production again, in a game that they should be down. The clear kind of running back, scat back for them. I think he looks really, really solid there at 5,300. I mentioned Travion Henderson just because they are down Antonio Gibson. He towards ACL, so him and Stevenson will be splitting the backfield there. So maybe this is finally the week that Travion Henderson breaks out. We have Haskins and Vidal. They'll kind of fill in for Amari and Hampton there. I don't think we need to go there right now unless we get a clear direction from Harbaugh of, if they'll do it like a workhorse, if they're going to split the backfield between the two. I'll get the slight edge to Haskins there for him. Otherwise, in terms of other running backs, that's really it. Nothing too crazy in terms of some values. Moving on to the wide receiver situation, obviously at the top, Puka Nacua. It's just one of those things. If you want to lock him, you can lock him in. He's fantastic, amazing. Not much else to say about that. Jamar Chase, I don't know if I'll be chasing him for a second week in a row. Like, that offense is just absolutely brutal. They had to play at Green Bay, really, really good team, really, really good defense, really, really hard environment to play in. Like, is Jamar Chase arguably the best wide receiver in the league? It's just, I don't know if I want to chase 2 massive games in a row from him unless he's coming in at sub 5% ownership. JSN, as I mentioned, him and Puka are by far, it's not even, they're in a different universe when it comes to how well they're playing and how much volume they're seeing in terms of those two compared to even the next wide receiver. I think it's Justin Jefferson. Those two are in just a wildly different universe. They're just a different stratosphere compared to everyone else. I wouldn't mind, locking both of them in your lineups if you could. Obviously, in this lineup, it doesn't leave you with a lot left over. I don't feel great about reaching down to value this week as of right now. Maybe we'll get some clear value plays. But, yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong locking those two into your lineups just with how well they're playing how much volume they're seeing and how efficient they've been. So they both look fantastic. Lamb, there's a slight chance he might be back. I don't think he will be. I think they'll hold him out for at least one more week there. So obviously George Pickens looks really, really solid. Had a kind of a letdown game there. Did make up for it with that long touchdown pass. But he's one of those guys I feel great going back to against Carolina, 6,800. Not the best matchup against J.C. Horn, but still, he looks really, really solid there if CeeDee Lamb's out. I mean, Igbuka, what else do you want to say about him? He's just been finding the end zone. He's been super efficient there. I don't mind if you land on him. I really like Devontae Adams. I don't love how his price came up. He's seen a good amount of targets. It just feels like it's one of those things where he's been super efficient, kind of like Igbuka, where, he's seen more targets than Igbuka, but I don't know. It kind of slightly feels hard to trust that volume, but still, it's a fantastic matchup. Devontae's super talented. He's seen a bulk of the targets there alongside Puka. They're commanding like 70% of the targets of the wide receiver room. So he looks really, really good against Baltimore. You just kind of worry about maybe it kind of happens for him to be, maybe he's in that Nico Collins spot where, maybe he gets, 15 fantasy points and it's not going to work out just because of his price and other plays going off. So that's my only worry there is like, can he pay off his price tag with the potential blowout risk? Moving on down a little bit more. Waddle, once again, I think looks like a fantastic play there at 6,100 as wide receiver one. I really like Ted McMillan. Hasn't had like a massive blowout game yet, but he's seen just consistent workload. 9 targets, 10, 8, 8, and 8. Putting up some really, really solid games, even though his box score doesn't really say to, it doesn't really kind of support that. It's just one of those things he hasn't found the end zone yet. Going against Dallas defense, I really like Ted McMillan this week. Moving on down a little bit more, as I mentioned, if you want to go to Geno Smith, Jacoby Myers has been pretty brutal, but he's kind of been one of the highest simulated players as having pretty solid games just because of his price tag. No Brock Bowers. He could once again be a pretty solid spot there. As I mentioned, Stephon Diggs looks really, really solid the past 2 weeks, 100 yards in both games. He's coming on strong. I don't mind pairing him up with Drake May, doing a skinny stack and kind of going with that. Moving on down a little bit more, Ladd McConkey kind of had like a mini breakout game there. Almost had another touchdown, had like a 60-yard punt return that got called back. But I do have a good amount of interest in Ladd and Keenan Allen over Quentin Johnston just because of the offensive line and losing the running back. I think they're going to struggle being able to run the ball. I think they're going to struggle being able to pass block for Justin Herbert, which I think will lead them to a lot of short yardage passes, some quick passes, and Herbert running the ball. So I really like pairing up Herbert with Ladd and Keenan and just kind of converting on those short, quick passes, which both of them are really, really good at. It's just harder to trust right now, kind of those deep balls that, Herbert was throwing to Quentin Johnston just because of the offensive line. Moving on down a little bit more, I don't mind landing Chris Godwin Jr. As we saw in week 4, his first week back, he saw 10 targets. He was out there a ton. Week 5, obviously only 4 targets, but still, he's going to be wide receiver 1 for them. Maybe Igbuka carries it for the next few weeks, but still, I think Godwin's going to get his role back, so I don't mind taking a shot on him. Moving on down a little bit more, Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings. Once again, if one of them or both of them are back, I will have interest in kind of Ricky Pearsall, depending on ownership. I think Pittman and Harrison Jr. look really, really strong in that matchup. It's just one of those things both their ceilings have kind of been capped a little bit just because for the Colts, it's just been the Jonathan Taylor show. And Harrison, their just offense has been absolutely brutal. But he seems to have found his confidence back, and I like the price tag for the wide receiver 1 in a game that they should be down and should have to throw a ton. So he looks really strong there at 5,300. Olave, I'll keep mentioning him, seeing just a good amount of targets. They just haven't really converted into much. The Green Bay wide receivers, it's just hard to trust which one's going to go off. I would assume, Dobbs, Stoops, whatever you want to call him. Wide receiver 1, I think you can kind of say that, but Golden's coming on recently. Obviously, if there's no Juwan Jennings or Pearsall, Kendrick Bourne would be a solid play there. Had a massive game there last week. Moving on down a little bit more here. In terms of value, I don't think there's really anything that stands out. That's why I don't like kind of having a force value in the lineup as of right now in this early look, just because there's no clear, wide receiver value plays or running back value plays right now. It kind of seems like more so a balanced build that we're going to build for this slate. I will mention the value of the wide receivers for the Cowboys. Ryan Flunay had a massive game there. He went for 21 fantasy points. And then Tolbert is kind of that wide receiver too, even though Flunay was that one last game. I'll mention them, but it's nothing too crazy there. In terms of tight ends, I think once again, you just pay up for the kind of the top 4, in McBride, Ferguson, Warren, and Kraft. If I had to rank them, it would probably be If there's no CD, I'd go to Ferguson as my favorite play. Then I go Kraft and McBride tied, and then Warren is my fourth favorite play there. I mean, it's just one of those things. They're all kind of right there tied together, so there's nothing too crazy there. It really just depends on kind of who you think is in the best matchup. I'd say it's Ferguson, but still, they all look amazing. And if we're going to go with Jordan Love, I think it makes sense to go into Tucker Kraft. And I think it's finally one of those weeks that we're going to finally get the double tight end lineup that hopefully takes down the $1 million to first. I feel like it happens like once or twice a year. And right now, as of this early look, as I said, there's not a lot of core plays or kind of early look value plays that we can get to. They feel great about to fit into your lineup to pay up for those high studs. So I think it could be one of those weeks where we're kind of forced to go to 2 tight ends just because they're pretty cheap and the top 4 and are really good spots and they're seeing a good amount of volume. In terms of some cheaper tight ends, Darren Waller, I'll keep mentioning him. His snaps went up. He's seen a ton of targets, especially in the red zone. I mean, he's been really, really good the past 2 games. Moving it down a little bit more, if those wide receivers are out for the 49ers, Jake Tongas looks really good again. He got absolutely peppered there, 11 targets. Barner had, 3 touchdowns that last game, or 2, 7 targets. It's just hard to trust him. He's kind of been more so just like a red zone look like Darren Waller. Not getting a ton of targets over the middle of the field. That's where Jason has been thriving. I will call out Njoku. He looks really, really solid there. It's kind of like the main pass catcher for Dylan Gabriel. And that's really it for me. There's nothing too much to like down here in terms of some value tight ends on this slate. And then in terms of defensives, you can pay up for the top defenses, but I think right now my favorite one is going to be either the Saints there at 2,400 playing at home, or the Browns. I know they're playing at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's been fine. It's just not the best matchup. Obviously, the Browns' offense is not the best, which, in return, definitely hinders the defense. But still, 2,500 for a team, really good defense, playing against Aaron Rodgers, and that offense is not the best. They kind of sputter out at times. I think right now that looks like a pretty solid price to pay in that matchup. So in terms of, I guess, early core plays, I'd say it's this right now. Love, Javonte Williams, Kyron Williams, Tucker Kraft, and the Browns defense. As I mentioned, if you wanted to, you could definitely get to the 2 top wide receivers in Puka and JSN. It's just one of those things. You left the 3,800 left over, which doesn't feel great because, as I mentioned, you're going to have to get down to some cheap wide receiver value, and right now they don't feel great. Like, sure, you can get to Malik Washington, wide receiver 4. Isaiah Bond saw a good amount of targets there, 7. It doesn't feel great, right? Like, you can get a little bit, contrarian, go to, you can go to Wicks there at 3,700, Fulune or, Jalen Tolbert. It just right now it doesn't feel great. So it's kind of hard to do both of them in this lineup. And then let's just say if you did throw in Wicks there to go with a little stack with Jordan Love, you left with 3,900 left over. It's pretty much only going to allow you to get to those kind of cheap wide receivers. Maybe you could get to like a solid tight end here. Bond, Andrews, Tongas, I don't mind that. That's really it. As you can see, it doesn't feel great kind of hoping, for one of those value plays to do well. I feel like you'd rather just pay down a little bit from one of these top wide receivers. Let's just say that we pay off of Puka because we have Kyron already. And then we can get to a little bit cheaper of a guy. Like, let's just say Waddle once again, and in that matchup allows you 5,100 left over, which you can fit in. I don't mind running back with Ladd there. As I mentioned, really like that matchup in kind of them doing a lot more short passes. And then you can get to some better plays like, let's see here, like a Josh Downs. I like that. But still, as you can see, you don't feel great about dipping below 5,000 across the board. So as I mentioned, could be one of those double tight end weeks just to get a little bit better value and to feel a little bit better about your lineup, as I mentioned, kind of right now. In terms of kind of early core plays, once again, not a lot of news to go off of. We'll see how that transpires throughout the week, but hope you guys like this breakdown. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.